Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here today in the studio. I think we have a nice program planned for you. I'm going to be finishing a piece. I really wanted to give you the opportunity to see me finish a piece today, so I started it ahead of time. I also want to talk a little bit about last week's live stream piece. And then let's see what else. Oh, just getting ready for IAPS, getting all packed and ready to go, figuring out how I'm going to bring all the gear and logistics. So that's pretty fun. Really excited about our trip. And yeah, so that's kind of it. We'll take questions during my painting today. I also want to just talk about my brushes a little bit as I get going and just my painting setup. But yeah, let's just kind of chat just briefly about last week's piece. So I had some comments that I saw come up on Facebook. A couple people actually did their own versions, which was awesome to see. But I saw a question or a comment that they would never have come up with such a such a visual based on the reference photo that I used. And this is, so let's just put the reference, maybe it's the easiest way to see it on the top down, maybe. Yeah, there we go. But as you can see, the reference photo is quite different than what I ended up with here. And so the comment on Facebook was like, oh, well, maybe that's the difference between somebody that's creative or an artist and an amateur. And I don't know. What I do think about my process is that I started in, I was initially driven by, at least compositionally, and the vase and the idea of this cluster of flowers and the kind of spray, the leaves over here. Yes, I made this an arc, the tabletop an arc. But what I did do is I started painting. And then once I kind of get something going, then I'm more responding to what I put down. So as I'm going through the painting process, I'm less and less and less driven by the reference photo and more and more and more driven by the painting itself, making choices based on that. So as I'm progressing through the piece, I'm letting go of the reference more and more, if that makes sense. And I believe that will occur again today, I hope. That's my intention. So let's talk about today's piece just a little bit, and then we'll talk about. So this is where I'm at with this piece. So let's show, first of all, there's the reference photo. Thanks, Bryce. And interestingly enough, I did a little teeny bit of Photoshop work on the reference photo, because you'll see in the reference photo there's this stop sign and a private, like kind of no trespassing sign, and I eliminated that from the reference because I don't want to paint that. And so, already kind of making some moves away from the, taking the reference super, super literally. I think most of us are able to do that, that's not so hard. But from there, I'm wanting to play with the color a little bit. I started with a ground of phthalo blue, which I'm really fond of. I like phthalo blue a lot, and I think it's really appropriate for an island scene. The other thing I'm thinking about here is keeping the masses of the foliage kind of together, and thinking about how the light's hitting the tops and the planes of these masses, rather than doing little individual little bits of leaves, and how light can be kind of shimmering and flickering all around in foliage. And what can happen when that's going on is we can tend to have have it be too busy and not have a really strong quality of light. So I'm really going to concentrate on that. I'm going to concentrate as I finish this and adding on to the color a little bit, but I do right now like how it's kind of, the color's kind of simple, it's kind of limited. So that's a little bit of my plan. And I want to talk a little bit about acrylics. Right now we're having a sale on my 2 acrylic workshops, and the sale's till the 21st, which these 2 workshops are really thorough. And one of the things, especially, well, in both of them, but let's talk about seasons and acrylic a little bit. In that workshop, I do talk about a couple of different methods for setting up your palette. Now, I think that that's a thing that is kind of confusing to people about acrylics. They dry fast. That's a great quality about them, but it's also kind of a liability, and sometimes people don't know what to do with that. So in both the workshops, we really cover on a couple different options on setting up your palette. There's also technique videos in both the workshops, so you can really learn how to do glazing and dry brushing and blending with acrylics, which acrylics can do really, really well. But admittedly, to take advantage of both of of all the things it can do, you do need a little bit of information, and I think that both the workshops really are great that way. I love acrylics. They're one of those media, I think, that are a little underappreciated, but I think they're really not to be missed, because you can do so much. You can do so much mixed media. There's so much opportunity there. So check out the sale. Oh, these are 2 photographs. When I was working on seasons in acrylic, I was going through a really intensive period of doing a lot of landscape painting in acrylics. And the projects in seasons in acrylic aren't super big like that. But while I was working on seasons in acrylic, I was doing these big landscape paintings. Super fun to do. So the studio was kind of a cacophony of color and production. So it's super fun. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the palette here that I've got going. And my brushes here. This is my set of brushes that this is for oil painting. And I had these out yesterday because I so want to go plein air painting. I'm all ready. I've got my pack all ready. I've got my palette all set up out in my other studio, all ready to go out. But here in Oregon, it's just been raining so much that I'm not haven't been. But this is my set. Nice selection of brushes, different sizes, fans, my palette knives, even my liner brushes. So I'm all ready to go. Can't wait. Hope by the time I get back from Albuquerque, the weather will have shifted just a bit, so I'll have an opportunity to go out and do some plein air with my oil paints. Can't wait. Just wanted to show you one little thing about acrylics. I left this little swatch of paint from yesterday, and all you need to do if you're using a glass palette is give it a little spray and wait just a couple, like maybe 30 seconds or so, and the paint starts to kind of crinkle up. We'll give it a minute. And then it's super, super easy to remove from a glass palette. Kevin, I have to lift this up just a little bit. All right. So I'm going to let you crank this up a little bit. There we go. I think that's about right. Okay. And as I said last week, I have all these brushes, right? Even all these brushes that I had for the oil painting. I wind up using like maybe just 2, maybe 3. And same thing I'm sure will happen today. I'll just end up using just a couple brushes, even though I have all these brushes. That's the way it goes. Okay, so this is, see, it just comes right up, no problem. So you don't have to struggle with dry, paint at all. It just comes right up off that glass palette. It's great. All right. Okay. All right, we'll save that for use. And I'm going to put my hair up.
Cool, you ready to jump right in?
Yeah.
I'll just reset this.
So I'm going to use this method of dipping right into the jars. It's real humid here, lots of rain. I don't have to worry about the paint drying out at all. Give it a little squirt, but I have a couple, as I said, in talking about the workshop, there's a couple different ways that I go about setting up my palette so that the paint stays moist and is really easy to deal with. So let's see, today I'm gonna start, I wanna add on to this, to these colors. I think I should be able to pull this within the hour, pretty close to a finished state, which is I really want to be able to do for you guys. And I'm just going to get in here, kind of start to expand on the color a little bit. I'm definitely playing with the color. I don't need to stick with the total idea that it's the reference is showing me, so I can play with it a bit. I do want to have it have this kind of tropical feel.
So we're going to take some questions during
Yeah, sure, we can.
Okay, cool. So our release date for year 4 is?
Well,
coming up soon.
It's coming up soon.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. I don't want to make, it's very soon. It's, I don't want to make any promises. We're right there. We're right on top of it. So I want to, now I've got to, you know what, this is, my bracelets are bugging me today. Maybe that's better. Yeah, that one's just loose. So let's see. So I'm just kind of making a little bit of a string of greens here. So I have some choices. And I kind of want that brighter. Get a nice string of color, and that's too dark for that, but right in here. So this is kind of the top of this mass right here. And then I'm going to come in. And I always think with painting, you want to make it, and then you break it and make it again. So this might not be the right thing. It might be.
So for the acrylic courses, do you have any recommendations for the size of canvas?
It's all in the course, you know. Yeah, we we used pretty kind of modest. On the seasons, they were a little bit bigger. In adventures in acrylic, they were mostly pretty small pieces.
And can you talk a little bit about the brands that you use?
Brands of acrylic paint. Yeah, you know, I'm not like super brand specific when it comes to acrylic paint. The thing I think is to steer away from would be student grade paint. So you want to, if you can, it just doesn't have the same pigmenting strength. So you know, that would be the only thing I would say.
And is it best to limit values in the trees to 2 or 3 at most?
I think at first, yeah, I think it is. You know, you want to. I mean, that's sort of a rule of thumb where whenever I'm painting, you know, and then you can start to add on from there. And you want to kind of keep the value masses kind of together, if that makes sense. So you're not having so many little bits. I'm going to come along. Yeah, I'm going to get some of this kind of thing going. I'll let that. So I'm just getting the sun on the very kind of edges of this foliage over here. Get some of these darks. This kind of tropical feel. It's really pretty cool. Just picking out some lights, little light holes. I want to really get that quality of light. Get that even lighter.
And we stream pretty regularly. I mean, sometimes we skip a week here and there, but we try to do it every week. Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, we try to do it. Yeah, I think that we're backing off from every single week a little bit, just in order to give me time to work on my own work and work on developing some new workshops that I really am interested in doing. So it does take a lot of energy to prepare for the stream. So yeah, so we're kind of backing off on every single week, but we'll still be doing a lot. It's fun. We like doing it. So, but it's not without its work and preparation in of itself. So. So I'm just picking out some of these little shapes that I want to get and play with without breaking up the values too much. Yeah, that's good. That's fun. Now, I think these could have just a little bit more light on the edge.
And Marla, can you talk a little bit about the oil workshops that you have?
Yeah, so oil painting for anybody is, it's really an in-depth kind of beginning oil painting. It's got a lot of information about technique and mixing. It's really intensive mixing videos, which I'm actually really proud of that workshop. It's great. And then Still Life in Oil also is got. Remember, Kevin? Remember all that mixing stuff we did?
A lot of work there, yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. The oil is a good medium to learn mixing in.
It's great. Yeah, it's a really good one. If you're wanting to really dig into color mixing. And that's one thing with pastelists, and I'm always kind of harping on this one, but to my pastel people that I don't want to get into another medium, and yeah, I get that, but I do think it can be a little bit of a liability for pastelists that we can kind of sort of phone it home a little bit on color theory, because we don't have to mix, we're picking, and so I think it can kind of lead to just a little bit of a Achilles heel when it comes to color theory. And so whether it's acrylic, whether it's oil, I think a deeper understanding of color theory through mixing is pretty smart. I'm going to just carve out this little difference here. Yeah, that's nice. It's just a little bit. Yeah, that's cool. All right. I'm going to get over here. I want to play with this guy. And I want a little bit of that wispiness, but I'm going to keep this mass a little bit tighter, not quite as airy as it is in the photo, just in the interest of, I kind of like the style of the look of it. It's really concentrating on the planes of values, and so I kind of like that look, so I'm not going to get it quite as airy. Right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the differences between the two acrylic courses in terms of painting techniques?
Well, techniques, they have some overlap in terms of technique. I would say, so Seasons in acrylic is definitely landscape centric, right? It's the subject matter is, definitely the landscape, whereas the Adventures in Acrylic is really, to me, my whole thing with that was like, here's a workshop that can show you how to do just about any kind of subject matter in acrylic. Really, the sky's the limit. And there are, I think, more different kinds of subject and ways of going about tackling them. So I think that's the primary difference between the two. Kind of subject matter driven. Okay. It's starting to kind of get fleshed out a little bit. Now I want to bounce to that road a little bit. And I am at this point, so I'm going to get a different bucket of water because this one's getting a little dirty. So this one is not totally clean, but it's better. Get this in there.
Another question about courses. Is Color College the best course to learn how to mix color?
It's a good one, definitely for mixing color. But the thing about Color College that I think is the strength of it is that is really talking about the three aspects of color: hue, value, and saturation. How to see and use them and orchestrate them independently of one another in your work, which is, to me, like the real, big. It's the key to painting confidently with color. So that's, color college is really very color theory driven. But there's mixing in it for sure. Ooh, I like that. That's good. And I'm going to come in. Now I'm going to come into that road, the light part of the road. Get a little bit of this going. Yeah. Carve that out. It's fun. Ooh, when I did that, that made this shadow really, really dark, and so I want to go ahead and get that a little lighter again. It's super strong now. So I'm going to come in here. Yeah, that's better. Just want that shadow to be luminous. We want it to, read as shadow, but also want it to have some, the skies bouncing into it. The definitely want that. Okay. All right, so now I want to get up into the sky and play with that.
Sarah had lots of nice things to say about color college, and she says she's a lot braver with color now.
Oh, good. Yeah, great. Oh, that's so good to hear. Yeah. It's, yeah, color college. We're going to have a color college too eventually. My color college too will be playing with color schemes and developing your own signature color palette and more expressive modes of color schemes. Okay. All right, that's coming together nicely. Now up into the sky. I'm going to throw these guys in the water so they don't get... Now that sky, it's a lot of clouds. So it's a lot of buff white. And I'm going to get pretty thick here because I know that that's going to work to cover thin it a little bit. So thin it just enough so it'll move around for me pretty well. Now that's good. Now I know I want to come in, cut into this, and open that up a little bit, but I'm not too much, not as much as the photo might suggest. But some. Get in here and
so to keep your palette moist, you sometimes spray it, right?
yeah.
Today, you're not doing that as much?
I don't need to today because I can see, I'm just looking at it's got some sheen on it. Like some of this is thin, so I wouldn't be able to reconstitute it. But like this is, there's enough paint here, so it's not gonna dry up right away. Like some of this you wouldn't be able to use because it's too thin. But if you get enough paint on here, and that's one of the reasons I like the jars or using the bead box, which we showed a picture of, is because it allows you to get enough paint and dip into it and mix enough that it's not going to dry. If you've got just a lot of thin paint, it's obviously going to dry faster. But if you've got enough on here, it doesn't dry quite as fast. So, and today it's really humid here, so I don't have to worry too much about, if it's 90 degrees out, then yeah, I gotta work on it in a lot different way.
Yeah, and if it was 90 degrees, you would close all the jars up.
I would close the jars up, or at least be spraying them a lot more frequently. Okay. You just got to learn to be, when you're mixing, the pigmenting strength of that phthalo, it's really strong. So, just learning just from mileage and just practice. See, when I come over here, I can kind of reconstitute some of this. Get it going again. Now we're going to work on that distant this shape here. I think that's I want it a little bluer, maybe a little lighter. It's pretty good. Maybe a little bluer. And again, I'm not going to get this quite as kind of open as it appears to be in the photo. Maybe a little. Play with that. So definitely kind of abstracting the reference. And just like I did with the floral, just kind of using it, not being married to it. I want to take a look at that. I've got a little glare as well. So.
Yeah, we were just talking about that too. It's always a challenge with
yeah, it is.
acrylic and oil. I think we got it pretty good, the best we can for the video.
For the video, yeah.
I had to turn the lights down a little bit. Hope that didn't bother you. But,
Oh, me? No. I've got the lighting's pretty good in here now. Good lighting situation. Thanks to our friendly crew of Roger and friends, Kenny
Kenny and Todd.
Those
guys are all pros.
And Brian. Yeah. It helps to get some pro consultants every now and then. Well, lighting's the whole sort of ball of wax when it comes to video. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of changed that contour. I'm going to go back and switch that up. I don't like it. I'm going to go back and change that. That's that make it, break it, make it again. That's, you know, it's what's kind of cool about acrylic, same thing with oil. With pastel, you got to be a little more careful about the layers. With acrylic and oil, you can kind of go and go and go and go, and it doesn't. You can go back and get as many as you want, really. I'm going to come over here and redo this shape here. want that up there. And how much, I might want to open up a few more sky holes in there. I think I want to get this a little bit like that. So see, reconstituting this. I can. It's not bad. It's not too bad. So do I want a few more of that? I mean, that's kind of nice. You've got to be careful. You want to make sure you get them different shapes, different sizes. That takes a little bit of practice, and again, kind of going back and forth. And same here. Do I want to break that up that much? I don't know. I don't really think so. I'm not going to do it. I like that.
Another question.
That's okay.
For a beginner, what do you recommend? Which course do you recommend to purchase to learn how? Sorry about that. For a beginner, what course do you recommend to purchase to learn how to pick the best colors for pastels?
The best colors for pastels. In terms of a beginning palette, is that, or choosing colors as you're working?
We do have pastels for the serious beginner.
We have pastels for the serious beginner, and that goes pretty in-depth into a beginning palette. But you might be not referring to that. You might be referring to, the question might be more referring to how to choose your colors, how to choose what colors to put into a piece. So I'd need a little more clarity on that question to answer it adequately, I think.
Another question. Can you glaze with acrylic like oils?
Yes. Yes, definitely. There's like this piece, the floral, has all kinds of different, there's direct painting in it in here. Then this, you see that this is glazing. And I did a lot of glazing, and then I rubbed back in. I actually removed some of the, so you let it sit up just a little bit, so it's just a teeny bit tacky, and then you can wipe into your glaze. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. It's amazing. Love that about acrylic, that you can use that so many different techniques.
So just another refinement of that other question, just about how to choose what colors to put in the piece on a basic level.
Right. Well, definitely Pastels for the Serious Beginner has that in it. All of my workshop, all of the pastel workshops talk about how to choose colors and how to get colors layered into a pastel piece.
Another little refinement. How would you go about selecting your pastels to replicate this piece you're currently working on? Do you do some pre-selection?
So this piece has it's got a limited palette, right? I started with the phthalo blue ground, and if I were wanting to replicate this in pastel, I would probably start with a similar kind of ground, and then I would then from there just stay with that limited idea for as long as I could. In any time that I'm painting with any medium, my first inclination is to stay limited for as long as I can, because the thing is, when you stay limited, at least to begin with, when you stay limited, you have the best opportunity to create color harmonies, because all the colors in your piece are going to have some echoing or some more connection. So as you start widening in the spectrum, they become less and less connected, if that makes sense. So just on the whole, as a general, and I'm going to say a rule of thumb, not a rule, is to stay as limited as you can for as long as you can. And then obviously, you're at one point or another, you're going to start expanding out from that, usually. But all of the pastel workshops do have quite a bit on, choosing color, because that's a big thing with people, like how, and that's probably the most frequent question that I get is, how do you choose those colors? Do you see those colors? How do you choose them so quickly? So on and so forth. And that really just more and more color theory is going to get you there, because the way I have my pastel tray set up is well, Kevin, you and I talked about it, that it's a visual representation of my understanding of color theory. So that is, that is the major underpinning of what I'm doing as a pastelist. And when I'm at IAPS next week, one of my presentations is called Crack the Color Code, because that's, yeah, okay. No, sometimes I'm sorry, you're not, no. I'm gonna block it, sorry.
So yeah, Marla just had to work on one side of the
Yeah.
painting for a little while and block a little bit. So it happens. You have to avoid the glare,
Yeah, I have to be able to see it. If I can't see it, I can't paint it.
One little piece of constructive criticism is that there's some repetitive, equal-sized light holes in the trees there.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. Yeah, I mean, these are 1, 2, 3. Yep.
That's a good observation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But really more. Yep. Yeah, these are, if we wanted to, maybe something like that.
We don't get a lot of constructive criticism, so it's kind of nice. People get, that's a good eye. And you were working on another part of the painting, to be fair, in defense of Marla. She was.
I don't need a defense. Yeah. I'm not. No offense. Yeah, because I'm sort of winging it a little bit here, because I don't want it to be as open and airy, because I'm trying to think about the planes a little bit more than the reference kind of implies. Yeah. Now, one thing I'm going to do at this stage of the game, I'm going to bring in a little relief. We've got lots of this like, whoo, crazy green. And I want to bring in a little relief from that. So I had in mind to go ahead and bring in some, and not crazy, but just like so. And I don't want it to look spotty either, right? I don't want it to be, and I don't want it to look as though it's contrived. So got to be a little careful on it. There's a little bit of the implication of that there. So got it. I just want to be a little cautious about that. And I think I also want to go ahead and, just bring in a little hit of that. Now that's not something I would kind of ordinarily would sort of do like that, but I think it sort of works there. And now this little bit of orange on this edge of that shadow is also echoing that reddish bit that I put in there. So I'm kind of repeating that warmth and doing it where shadow meets light is a good place to do it because it there's a vibration of color wherever shadow is meeting light, so it's not a bad deal. And I might want some of this to be just a little bit lighter here and there. And then up in the sky, I'm gonna fix that cloud. It's kind of right in there. Gonna bring in, but I had to wait for that until that dried a little bit. All right. All right. All right, so just about wrapping this up. It's really close. I might spend a few more, like the things that I would be doing is like redesigning some of these sky holes, working on the contour a little bit if I needed to. Oops, that wasn't the right, that kind of thing. But overall, I'm not going to get into doing little tiny bits, little shapes on this. I really like the overall kind of brush work and the kind of direct brush work on it. I think that's really effective in describing the planes and describing this kind of the foliage masses overall. So I kind of like it. I might play with the clouds up here a little bit, but it's close. It's really, to me, it's pretty close, but super fun. And so be sure to go to the website and check out the sale. It's just until the 21st, which is the day I leave for IEPS. So only a few days left in the sale and a few days left for me to get ready for IEPS. It's going to be crazy. I'm really looking forward to seeing people there and seeing everyone's faces and connecting in person with people. It's been far too long, so it's going to be a really fun time. So we won't be doing a live stream next week because I will be there, but we'll see you the following week. All right, bye-bye.